Whitman, finding it no less than the stars' journey work, he sang praises to a grandiose blade of grass, wondered at perfection found even in the smallest things, milked the Milky Way, too, expansively proclaimed himself a cosmos, this self-inventing shining portal, a mortal manic in his dream of immortality, a startling channel of forbidden voices, unlocked jambless gate, slammed with force of personality. Somehow, for us all, opening a little way, this antique believer in flesh and appetite, then as now. At the last, ironically, an invalid, nonetheless still singing pride of body, choosing morning glories over metaphysics. All the more puzzled by being, the great humdrum conundrum. The sun that dawns so casually opening flowers, the bard's bouncing boundless egotism, all embracing. Perspicacious American individuality run amok with garrulous, all-inclusive talent, striding off into infinity and all at once doubling back to microcosm, the universal grandeur of one in all. Whitman admiring especially animals because they, quote, do not sweat and whine about their condition, unquote, nor do they, quote, make me sick discussing their duty to God, unquote. Except for humankind, he observed, no sentient creature is dissatisfied, quote, not one demented with the mania of owning things, unquote. Thus wrote the immaterial materialist, who with his lists and catalogues proved Heraclitus long before in his claim that, quote, the most beautiful order in the world is still a random gathering of things in themselves insignificant, unquote. Although universal Mana's minstrel, cataloging American life in verse, may well have inspired Sears Roebuck and obviously shocked James Harlan by 1865, the first Politico critic, respectable and happy to be unhappy with Whitman, an interior secretary who looked into the book at the first sight of poetry, canceled the writer's federal subsidy. To some humorless almighty, Harlan self-righteously executed his duty. Whitman fired from the Indian Bureau by this chief. Quote, the good gray poet, unquote, soon a servant of justice instead. And perhaps someone else knows the locale of what once was called Whitman's eternal repose. The restless poet who in life sang that song of self, covered himself with leaves of grass and glory, 1819 to 1892, wrote while moving, he said, quote, along the ruts of the turnpike, unquote. So why am I surprised pulling off the New Jersey Turnpike one afternoon to discover Whitman still expanding infinitely, coming to embrace even the most mundane modern space, a roadside Walt Whitman service area, no less, in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, where his 19th century face gazes from the wall above a drinking fountain on the way to fast food and restrooms. Like me, he too, a boy from Brooklyn, but left his job as an Eagle editor, took the world by poetic storm. In his lifetime went west, even so ended up just over in Jersey, writing indicative words unlike those of any other voice of his time. Advancing for a moment, then abruptly wheeled back into too long darkness. A stranger who still saunters at the edge of things, never fully stops as I do, seeing you. As he turns a casual glance upon us, seems to see the shabbiness of our rest-stop souls, threadbare where we intended to show only fashionable fabric. averts his face in shadow then, as we bend to kiss chilled water. Leaves it all to us to prove, find the unspoken meanings of this earth. Expects definition and the other main things to come from us, his heirs and assigns. We poets of a future now so streamingly arriving in this place where tomorrow is too rapidly present. Like these careening cars and trucks right outside this door on the rutless, ruthless, high-speed north-south toll road. A future swift, geometrically expanding in the all-embracing megalopolis, and yet, somehow, just as fleeting as the fragrance of new-mown Whitman.